On Christmas, she arrived earlier than planned at the party at her in-laws' house. She was shocked when she heard her husband say, "Julia is pregnant. I'm about to be a father." She left quietly. 3 weeks later, everyone went pale when they saw, "Hi, my beautiful, loyal and great family. Welcome back to your own family channel, Mr. Peter's Stories. May the Almighty wrap every woman in a light so pure that no pain can dim it, a strength so deep that every storm bows before her, and a grace that turns every room into peace the moment she enters. Women are the heartbeat of every home, the quiet heroes who carry the world with soft hands and fierce courage, the souls who love even when they are hurting and still choose kindness. I pray your days bloom with blessings, your nights rest in comfort, and your hearts overflow with joy that never fades. May every closed path open for you, every burden become lighter, and every dream rise higher than you ever imagined. You deserve oceans of love, mountains of respect, and a life filled with gentle miracles for all the goodness you give without limits. If your heart is true, like the video, if your love is real, write, "I am with Mr. Peter." Marilyn stood in the December snow outside her in-laws' mansion, the champagne bottle she'd brought already warming in her grip, when she heard her husband's voice boom through the cracked window with words that would shatter her world. She had left work early to surprise everyone. The Garner family Christmas Eve party started at 7, but she'd finished her case review by 5 and decided to arrive early to help. That was who she'd always been in this marriage. The woman who anticipated needs, who smoothed rough edges, who made everything work while pretending it took no effort at all. The bottle of Dom Perignon had cost $300. She'd chosen it specifically because Shane's father collected vintage champagne. 8 years of marriage had taught her that small gestures of consideration toward his family bought her temporary acceptance, though never belonging. The front windows of the estate glowed warm against the winter darkness. She could see Christmas lights reflected in the glass, hear laughter and music spilling out into the cold night. Marilyn adjusted her coat and walked up the stone steps, her heels clicking against frozen concrete. That's when she heard it. "Julia's pregnant. I'm about to be a father. Finally, a real family." Shane's voice carried through the window. Someone had cracked open despite the cold. Marilyn froze 3 steps from the door, her hand still reaching for the bell. "Thank God!" his mother's voice, sharp with relief. "That woman you married was never good enough for this family anyway. Too focused on her career, too opinionated, too everything. A real wife would have given you children by now. Julia understands what I need." Shane again, and Marilyn could picture him standing by the fireplace with his scotch, the way he always did at family gatherings. "She makes me feel like a man, not like some accessory to Marilyn's success." Laughter erupted from inside, multiple voices agreeing, celebrating. His father's deep chuckle, his sister's high-pitched squeal of excitement. Marilyn didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't burst through the door and throw the champagne bottle at her husband's head, though her fingers tightened around the neck until her knuckles went white. She simply set the bottle on the doorstep, turned around, and walked back to her car. The drive to her downtown office took 20 minutes. She didn't turn on the radio, didn't call anyone, just drove through Christmas Eve traffic with the precision she brought to everything in her life, her mind already 3 steps ahead of her breaking heart. Marilyn had built her career as a commercial real estate attorney by being smarter and more thorough than everyone else in the room. While other lawyers coasted on charm or connections, she'd mastered every detail of contract law, zoning regulations, and property acquisition. She'd made partner at 32. She'd brokered deals worth hundreds of millions. And she'd made one very smart decision 8 years ago when Shane proposed. Her office building was nearly empty. Security waved her through with a confused look. Everyone should be home with family on Christmas Eve. She took the elevator to the 14th floor and unlocked her office, not bothering with the lights. The city glowed outside her windows, a million lives celebrating while hers disintegrated. She opened her safe and pulled out the file she hadn't looked at in years, the prenuptial agreement. Shane had been so in love when they'd gotten engaged, or maybe just in love with the idea of her, the successful attorney with family money, the woman who could open doors his charm couldn't. He'd signed whatever she put in front of him, barely reading the terms. Marilyn read them now with a lawyer's eye, though she'd written them herself and knew every clause. The house was in her name, the cars were in her name, her salary and assets remained separate. And the critical piece, the one Shane's ego had let him ignore, any business venture financed with her family money would have her listed as majority shareholder until the initial investment was repaid with 20% interest. Shane's tech company, the one he called his baby, his legacy, had been started with $2 million from her family trust. He'd never paid her back. He was too busy playing entrepreneur, buying expensive suits and taking clients to golf courses, while she'd quietly held 52% of his shares for 8 years. She picked up her phone and made the first call. "Richard? It's Marilyn Johansson. I need the best divorce attorney in the state. Someone vicious. Someone who doesn't negotiate." She paused. "Yes, Christmas Eve. When can we meet?" The second call went to her financial advisor. "I need to move assets. Everything that's joint, I want separated by tomorrow morning. Everything that's mine, I want protected." Another pause. "I don't care if it's a holiday. Make it happen." The third call was to an old law school friend who now sat on the board of Shane's biggest competitor. "How would you feel about acquiring a promising tech company at a very attractive price? I happen to know the majority shareholder is highly motivated to sell." By the time she finished, it was nearly midnight. Her phone buzzed with a text from Shane. "Where are you? Everyone's asking about you." She turned off her phone without responding. Marilyn sat in her dark office watching the city lights blur and refocus. She thought about the woman she'd been when she met Shane. Fresh out of law school, hungry to prove herself, so eager for someone to love her exactly as she was. He'd seemed perfect, handsome, ambitious, from a good family. She'd ignored how his ambition always required her money, how his family's approval always came with conditions, how his love always felt like something she had to earn. Julia was pregnant. He was going to be a father. Finally, a real family. As if 8 years with Marilyn had been practice, a rough draft, something to endure until the real story could begin. She logged into her computer and started drafting documents, property transfers, asset divisions, corporate restructuring, the legal demolition of a marriage that had been crumbling for years while she'd been too busy succeeding to notice. Her desk phone rang at 1 in the morning. Shane, calling from the landline at his parents' house. She let it ring. At 2, she heard his car in the parking garage below, his footsteps in the hallway, his key in her office door. He stumbled in smelling like scotch and something else. Perfume, not hers. "There you are." Everyone was worried. He moved to hug her and stopped when she didn't stand. "What's wrong?" Marilyn looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. Or maybe she'd always been married to a stranger and had convinced herself otherwise. "Go home, Shane." "What? Marilyn, it's 2 in the morning. Let's just go home together." "I said go home. I have work to finish." He laughed, that easy charm he wielded like a weapon. "On Christmas Eve? Come on. Whatever case you're working on can wait." She stood then, and something in her face made him step back. "The case I'm working on can't wait. It's the most important one of my career." She picked up a folder from her desk and held it out. "These are divorce papers. You'll be served officially tomorrow, but I wanted you to have them tonight. Merry Christmas, Shane." He stared at the folder like it might explode. "What? Marilyn, where is this coming from?" "Read them, sign them, and get out of my office." "Is this because I was late tonight? Because the party ran long?" She almost laughed, almost told him she'd heard everything. But she was a lawyer, and lawyers knew when to show their cards and when to hold them. This is because I'm done. With you. With your family. With pretending 8 years of my life weren't wasted on a man who never saw me as enough. I don't understand. We're fine. We're happy. You're happy. I'm exhausted. She walked to the door and opened it. I want you out of the house by tomorrow night. Take whatever's yours, which honestly isn't much. I'll send movers for the rest. Shane tried to touch her arm and she jerked away. Don't. You'll contaminate me with whoever you've been touching. His face went pale. Marilyn, I can explain. I don't want your explanations. I want my life back. She watched him leave, holding the divorce papers like they were burning his hands. Watched him stumble down the hallway, confused and drunk and completely blindsided. Marilyn closed her office door and sat back down at her desk. Her wedding ring felt heavy on her finger. She twisted it off and dropped it in her desk drawer, where it landed with a soft clink against pens and paperclips. By the time Shane stumbled home at 3 in the morning smelling like another woman's perfume, Marilyn had already moved $40 million, hired the city's most vicious divorce attorney, and done something that would destroy him in exactly 3 weeks. She'd scheduled a board meeting at his company. The majority shareholder had some announcements to make. Chapter 2. The 3-week silence. Shane didn't notice his wife's silence for the first 5 days. He was too busy playing house with Julia. Christmas Day passed in a blur of panic and denial. He'd tried calling Marilyn 17 times. She never answered. He'd gone to the house and found the locks changed. Her clothes were gone from the closet, her toiletries cleared from the bathroom. She'd moved out so efficiently, it was like she'd been planning it for months. Maybe she had been. Shane told himself it was a tantrum. Marilyn was dramatic sometimes, too emotional about small things. She'd cool off, they'd talk, he'd explain about Julia, how it just happened, how it didn't mean anything, how he'd end it if that's what Marilyn wanted. Except Julia was pregnant, with his child. His son, according to the ultrasound she'd shown him 3 days before Christmas. He spent Christmas night at Julia's apartment, holding her while she cried about how scary pregnancy was, how worried she was about being a good mother. She was 28, a marketing coordinator at his company, pretty and sweet and uncomplicated. She laughed at his jokes. She thought he was brilliant. She needed him. Marilyn had never needed him. That was the problem. By day 6, Shane realized the locks weren't the only thing that had changed. His company email had a meeting request from the legal department. His personal accounts were frozen. His lawyer, the one his father had recommended, kept saying words like complicated and significant exposure. He found Marilyn on day 7 at her law firm's office, 11 at night, and she was still working. She'd always been like that, married to her career more than to him. That's what he told himself anyway. Where have you been? He'd meant it to sound concerned, but it came out angry. She didn't look up from her computer. Working, like I always do while you play entrepreneur. That's not fair. I've been building something real. With my money. She finally looked at him and her eyes were cold. He'd never seen her look at him like that. Did you ever actually read our prenuptial agreement, Shane? What does that have to do with anything? Everything. It has to do with everything. She stood and walked to her office window. Outside, the city glittered. I want you to go home, your home, wherever that is now, and prepare yourself. For what? For consequences. He tried to touch her shoulder, and she stepped away so fast he stumbled. Don't! You'll contaminate me with whoever you've been inside lately. The words hit him like a slap. You know about Julia. I know you're having a baby with your employee. I know you told your family she was your real family. I know you've been lying to me for months. Her voice never rose. That was worse somehow. What I don't know is whether you're genuinely stupid or just spectacularly arrogant. Marilyn, please, let me explain. Save it for your lawyer. You'll get the papers tomorrow. She picked up her wedding ring from her desk, the one she'd removed, and placed it in his palm. You should give this to Julia. Maybe she'll be dumb enough to think it means something. The ring was cold in his hand. He stared at the diamonds he'd been so proud to afford, not knowing Marilyn's grandmother had actually paid for it. "I made a mistake. I'm sorry. You made a choice. There's a difference." She gathered her things and walked toward the door. "I have another meeting. Lock the door when you leave." "Another meeting? It's almost midnight." She smiled then, but it wasn't the smile he knew. It was sharp and dangerous and new. "I'm a partner at one of the most successful firms in the city. I always have another meeting." She left him standing in her office, holding a wedding ring that suddenly felt worthless. The next 2 weeks were a nightmare Shane couldn't wake up from. His lawyer finally explained the prenuptial agreement in terms even he couldn't misunderstand. Marilyn owned controlling interest in his company. She could sell those shares whenever she wanted, and apparently she wanted to sell them now. "She can't do that." Shane had said it 5 times in the meeting. "It's my company. It's her investment. You never paid back the initial capital. I was going to. Eventually, the company is growing. That doesn't matter. According to the contract you signed, she has full rights to sell her shares to any buyer of her choosing." His lawyer looked tired. "Shane, she's not bluffing. I got notice this morning. There's a board meeting scheduled for January 14th. She's bringing a buyer." January 14th, exactly 3 weeks after Christmas Eve. Shane tried everything. He called Marilyn's office every day. He sent flowers. He sent apology letters. He showed up at her gym, her favorite coffee shop, the courthouse where she had hearings. She ignored him completely, like he was invisible. Julia kept calling too, upset that he was distracted, that he wasn't excited enough about the baby. His mother called daily with advice he didn't want. His father called once to say he was disappointed, which was worse. Everything was falling apart, and Shane couldn't figure out how to stop it. On day 15, he went back to the house, her house apparently, since his name wasn't on the deed. Another thing he'd never bothered to check. The locks were still changed. He sat in his car in the driveway and cried for the first time since his grandfather died. He'd lost her, not just lost her, driven her away with his own stupidity and selfishness. And now she was going to take everything else too. On day 20, Julia had a scare, cramping and bleeding. He took her to the hospital and held her hand while doctors checked the baby. Everything was fine, but Julia sobbed in his arms about how she couldn't do this alone, how she needed him to be present, how he seemed a million miles away. "I'm here," he said, stroking her hair. "I'm right here." But he wasn't. Not really. Part of him was still standing in that office, watching Marilyn walk away with a smile he didn't recognize. The night before the board meeting, Shane couldn't sleep. He drove past Marilyn's new penthouse downtown. When had she bought a penthouse? And saw lights on the top floor. Was she up late preparing? Was she thinking about him at all? His phone buzzed. A message from his lawyer. "Board meeting is at 9 a.m. Be prepared. This is going to be bad." Shane sat in his car outside his wife's building and wondered how his life had collapsed so completely in 21 days. He'd had everything. A successful company, a brilliant wife, respect from his family and peers. And he'd thrown it away for what? A younger woman who made him feel important. A baby he wasn't ready for. The illusion of control. At 2 in the morning, he sent Marilyn one last text. "Please don't do this. We can fix this. I'll do anything." She responded immediately, which meant she was awake too. "You had 3 weeks to think about what you were about to lose. I had 8 years. See you at the meeting." Shane called his lawyer the next morning at 7, trying to laugh off his nerves, asking if there was any way to stop this. By 8, he'd stopped laughing. By 9, he was sitting in a conference room watching his entire world end. His company's board had just received notice that the majority shareholder wanted an emergency meeting, and his wife was the majority shareholder. Chapter 3. The Acquisition. The conference room went silent when Marilyn walked in wearing her power suit and the smile of a woman who'd been planning this moment for 3 weeks. She'd chosen navy blue Armani with her grandmother's diamond earrings. Hair pulled back in a style that said serious business. Heels that added 3 inches to her height. She wanted everyone in this room to see her exactly as she was. Powerful, precise, and completely in control. Shane sat at the far end of the table, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Good. Neither had she, but she'd hidden it better. His lawyer sat beside him, a middle-aged man named Foster who'd already tried to call her 14 times. She hadn't answered once. The rest of the board, 8 men who'd always treated her like Shane's pretty accessory, stared at her with varying expressions of confusion and concern. Gentlemen, she took the seat at the head of the table, the power position. Thank you for making time on short notice. I'll keep this brief since I know everyone has other commitments. Marilyn. Shane's voice cracked. Can we please talk about this privately? We're past private conversations. She opened her briefcase and distributed folders to each board member. As you're all aware, I hold 52% of company shares through my initial investment 8 years ago. What you may not be aware of is that I'm exercising my right to sell those shares, effective immediately. The room erupted, questions fired from every direction. Shane looked like he might vomit. You can't just sell the company. This from Harold, the oldest board member, a friend of Shane's father. This is Shane's life's work. Built with my family's money that was never repaid according to the terms of our agreement. She clicked a button, and the presentation screen lit up. I've accepted an offer from Dante Reeves of Reeves Technology Group. The sale price is $90 million, closing within 30 days. Shane stood so fast, his chair fell backward. 90 million. That's 20 million below market value. It's 30 million above what you've earned in 8 years. I'm losing money on the deal, actually. But Mr. Reeves has plans for the company that I find compelling. She advanced to the next slide. He'll be dissolving current operations and integrating your technology into his existing platforms. All staff will be offered positions in the new structure. All staff except me. Shane's face had gone from pale to red. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Destroying me. This is about recovering my investment and moving on with my life. If your ego gets destroyed in the process, that's incidental. She looked at each board member in turn. The majority shareholder has spoken. The sale will proceed with or without board approval, though I'd prefer to have it. Shall we vote? I vote no. Shane's voice shook. This is my company. I built this from nothing. You built it from $2 million of my money. Let's be precise. Marilyn pulled out another document. Your contract as CEO includes a clause stating you can be removed by majority shareholder vote in cases of company sale or restructuring. I'm invoking that clause. As of today, you're terminated with the standard severance package. Harold spoke up, his loyalty wavering. Marilyn, surely there's room for negotiation. Shane has valuable knowledge about the company's operations, which he can share during a transition period if Mr. Reeves requires it. But he will not be leading this company forward. She closed her briefcase. The papers are in your folders. I need signatures by end of business today. Anyone who refuses will be in breach of their fiduciary duty to the majority shareholder. She'd planned this perfectly. Every legal angle covered. Every protest anticipated and countered. This was what she did. Saw 3 moves ahead. Built cases that couldn't be broken. Won before the fight even started. Shane had a breakdown right there in the conference room, stood up shouting about betrayal and revenge and how she was a cold-hearted monster. His lawyer tried to calm him down. The board members looked away, embarrassed. Marilyn just watched, feeling nothing except satisfaction that she'd been this thorough. His phone rang in the middle of his tirade. Julia's name flashed on the screen. Pregnancy issues, probably. He ignored it, too busy screaming at Marilyn about how cruel she was being. She let him finish, let him exhaust himself with rage and desperation. Then she spoke, quiet enough that he had to stop to hear her. "Are you done? I made one mistake. One. And you're taking everything. You made 1,000 mistakes. I just finally stopped forgiving them." She stood and walked to the door. "Sign the papers, Shane. It's over." She left the conference room and took the elevator down to the lobby, her heart pounding, but her face perfectly calm. She'd done it. In 3 weeks, she'd dismantled her husband's entire life with the same precision she brought to every case she'd ever won. Her phone buzzed. A text from her lawyer. "Signatures are coming in. This is the most brutal divorce strategy I've ever seen. Remind me never to cross you." Marilyn allowed herself a small smile. Then she saw him. A man standing by the lobby fountain, watching her with interest. Tall, dark-skinned, impeccably dressed in a suit that probably cost more than Shane's car payment. He had the kind of confidence that came from genuine achievement, not borrowed status. "Ms. Johansson." He extended his hand. "Dante Reeves. I believe we have some business to discuss." She shook his hand, noting his firm grip, his direct eye contact, his complete lack of the patronizing tone most men used with her. "Mr. Reeves, thank you for the timely offer. Thank you for the opportunity, though I have to say that was even more impressive than I expected." He gestured toward the elevators. "Your reputation doesn't do you justice. I take it you watched the board meeting." "Via conference call. Your husband's lawyer insisted I participate remotely. I think he was hoping I'd back out." Dante smiled. "I didn't." "No, you didn't." She studied him, this man who'd just helped her destroy her marriage. "The company is yours. What happens to it now?" "I have plans, big ones." He pulled out a business card. "But I didn't just come here to buy a tech company. I came because I've been watching your work for 2 years, and I think you're the smartest real estate attorney I've ever encountered." "Real estate attorney? You bought a tech company." "I know. And tomorrow, I'm going to start buying distressed properties all over the city. Foreclosures, bankrupt developments, buildings no one else wants." He handed her the card. "I need someone brilliant to turn them into something extraordinary. I need a partner, not an employee. Someone who sees potential where others see problems." Marilyn looked at the card, then at him. "You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a partnership, 50-50 equity split, equal decision-making power, profit sharing on every deal." He leaned closer. "I build empires, Ms. Johansson, and I think you do too. The question is whether you want to build one alone or with someone who actually sees your value." Her phone buzzed again. Shane, calling for the 43rd time that week. She declined it without looking. "I'd like to discuss this further. Are you free for dinner?" She should say no. She was in the middle of a divorce. She'd just destroyed her husband's career. She should go home and process what she'd done, feel something about the marriage she'd ended. Instead, she heard herself say, "I am now." They went to a steakhouse downtown where the wine cost more than Shane's monthly car payment. Dante ordered a bottle of something French and expensive without looking at the menu, then pulled out a portfolio. 15 properties, prime locations, all in foreclosure or bankruptcy proceedings. Banks are desperate to unload them. He spread photos across the table. "This one's a hotel in the Arts District. This one's a warehouse near the waterfront. This one's an office building downtown that's been empty for 3 years. Marilyn studied the photos with a lawyer's eye, already seeing the angles, the possibilities, the potential. "What's your vision?" "Mixed-use luxury developments. Residential on top, commercial on the ground floor, amenities throughout. We're talking about reshaping entire neighborhoods." His eyes lit up when he talked about it. Shane's eyes had only lit up like that when talking about himself. "But I need someone who understands the legal complexities, who can navigate zoning laws and permits and contracts, someone who won't just say yes to everything, but will challenge me when I'm wrong. And you think that's me. I know that's you. I've read every case brief you've published. I've studied your deals. You're not just smart, you're strategic. You see the whole board while everyone else is focused on one move." He poured her more wine. "Plus, you just systematically destroyed your husband's company in under a month. Anyone capable of that level of precision is someone I want on my team." She laughed, surprised by her own reaction. When was the last time she'd laughed? Shane hadn't made her laugh in years. He'd made her tense, exhausted, small. "What's the investment requirement?" "For you?" "Nothing. I'm fronting all capital. You bring expertise and labor. We split profits evenly once we're in the black." He slid a contract across the table. "I had my lawyers draw this up this morning. Read it. Take it to your own lawyers. But I want an answer by Monday." Marilyn read the contract while her steak got cold. It was airtight, fair, actually tilted slightly in her favor. Dante Reeves was putting up $50 million and offering her equal partnership based solely on her reputation and skills. "Why me? You could hire any attorney in the city." "I don't want to hire someone. I want a partner who has as much to gain as I do. Someone motivated by building something real, not just collecting a paycheck." He met her eyes. "And honestly, anyone who can walk away from a bad situation with that much precision is someone I trust to make hard decisions when they matter." Her phone buzzed. Shane again, then Julia, then Shane's mother. Dante noticed. "You can take that if you need to." "No, they're my past. I'm more interested in discussing the future." She raised her glass. "Tell me about the waterfront property. What are the zoning restrictions?" They talked for 3 hours. About architecture and law, profit margins and risk assessment, city development and personal ambition. Dante challenged her assumptions. She challenged his numbers. They argued about design elements and laughed about bad clients they'd both encountered. When the check came, Marilyn reached for it by habit. She'd paid for everything in her marriage. Dante took it first. "Partners split everything equally, but tonight's on me. Call it a signing bonus." "I haven't signed yet." "You will." He stood and offered his hand to help her up. Shane had never done that. "You're too smart to pass up a good deal, and this is the best deal you'll see all year." He was right. She knew it the moment she'd read the contract. They walked to the parking garage together. Her car was on level 3, his on 5. He rode the elevator with her anyway. "Think about it over the weekend. No pressure. Though I should mention, I have 3 other attorneys I could call if you're not interested." She smiled. "No, you don't. You said I was the smartest you've ever encountered." "True. I lied about having backup options. You're my first choice and my only choice." The elevator dinged on her floor. "But I respect your right to consider it carefully." Marilyn stepped out, then turned back. "Monday's too long to wait. I'll have my answer by Sunday." "Sunday works. I'll send you the property files tomorrow so you can review them properly." The elevator doors started to close. She stopped them with her hand. "Mr. Reeves, thank you for seeing me as more than just Shane's angry ex-wife. I don't see Shane's anything. I see Marilyn Johansson, the attorney who turned a prenuptial agreement into the most devastating divorce strategy I've ever witnessed." He smiled. "That woman is going to make me a lot of money." She drove home to her new penthouse, feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Not happiness, exactly, but possibility. The sense that her life was about to become something entirely different than what she'd planned. Her phone rang as she pulled into her parking garage. Shane, one more desperate attempt. She answered this time. "What do you want? Please." His voice was raw from crying. "Just tell me how to fix this. I'll do anything." "There's nothing to fix. It's already done. The board signed the papers. They all abandoned me. My own board voted me out. They voted for their own interests. That's business." "This isn't business, Marilyn. This is my life." "Your life is your problem now. Mine is finally my own." She ended the call and blocked his number. Tomorrow, Shane's company would officially become property of Dante Reeves. His board would scatter to new positions. His parents would hear about their son's spectacular failure. Julia would realize she was pregnant by a man with no job and no prospects. And Marilyn would wake up in her beautiful penthouse, read through property files, and decide whether to build an empire with a man who saw her as an equal. She smiled at her reflection in the darkened car window. For the first time in 3 weeks, the woman looking back at her wasn't just surviving, she was winning. Chapter 4. Building Empires. Marilyn hadn't realized she'd been holding her breath for 8 years until Dante made her laugh so hard wine came out her nose at their third planning meeting. 6 weeks had passed since the board meeting that ended her marriage and started her new life. 6 weeks of 16-hour days, of blueprints spread across conference tables, of zoning hearings and permit applications and late-night strategy sessions that felt nothing like work. Shane's company had been dismantled efficiently, his technology integrated into Dante's existing platforms, his employees offered positions or severance packages, his legacy erased in under a month, like it had never existed. Julia was in the hospital again with pregnancy complications. Shane spent his days sitting in waiting rooms, jobless and bitter, watching his former life continue without him. Marilyn knew all this because his mother kept calling, begging her to reconsider the divorce, to give him another chance. She'd stopped answering those calls after the first week. She had better things to do, like turning a bankrupt hotel into a luxury residential complex worth $40 million. The penthouse units need to face east. Dante was gesturing at the architectural rendering spread across the table in Marilyn's new office. They'd rented the entire 15th floor of a downtown building, half for her legal team and half for his development crew. Morning light sells. People want to wake up to sunrise. Morning light is irrelevant if we can't get the parking variance approved. Marilyn pulled up the zoning codes on her laptop. The city requires 1 space per unit for buildings this size. We have room for 60 spaces and 72 units. So we request a variance. We're 3 blocks from a subway station. And we'll get pushback from the neighborhood association. They'll argue increased traffic, parking overflow, quality of life issues. She'd already anticipated this fight, already had a strategy. We need to offer something they want more than they want to fight us. Like what? Like a public park on the ground floor. Green space, playground, open to the neighborhood. We lose 10 units of commercial space, but gain community support and fast-track our permits. Dante studied her for a long moment, then grinned. That's brilliant. I would have spent 6 months fighting the variance. You just turned their opposition into our advantage in 30 seconds. That's what you're paying me for. I'm not paying you. We're partners, remember? He made a note on the rendering. Public park on the ground floor. I like it. Make it happen. This was how they worked. He'd throw out ambitious ideas. She'd find the legal path to make them real. They'd argue about details until the plan became something better than either had imagined alone. It was exhilarating in a way her marriage never had been. Shane had needed her to make him feel important. Dante needed her to be excellent. The difference was everything. Their third planning meeting happened at a wine bar near the office. They'd been working 18-hour days on the hotel conversion, living on coffee and momentum. Dante had insisted they take 1 evening off before they both burned out. Tell me something. He poured them both another glass of something red and expensive. How does someone as smart as you end up married to someone as stupid as Shane Garner? She almost deflected, almost gave the polite answer about how people change and marriages are complicated. But Dante's directness invited honesty. I thought I needed someone from the right family, someone who would make me acceptable. She swirled her wine, watching light play through the glass. My parents immigrated from Jamaica. They built everything from nothing, put me through the best schools, gave me every advantage. And I spent my 20s trying to prove I belonged in rooms where people looked at me like I'd snuck in the back door. Shane's family made you feel like you belonged? Shane's family made me feel like I needed their approval to matter. There's a difference. She took a drink. He proposed at the country club in front of everyone. His mother cried. His father shook my hand. I felt like I'd won something important. You won an anchor disguised as a prize. She laughed. That's exactly what it was. 8 years of making myself smaller so he could feel bigger. 8 years of financing his dreams while mine stayed on hold. 8 years of being the smart wife, the supportive wife, the wife who made everything work while he played entrepreneur. And then you heard him say Julia was his real family. And then I remembered who I actually was. She met his eyes. Not Shane's wife. Not the woman trying to earn approval from people who would never give it. Just Marilyn, the girl whose parents taught her that power isn't given, it's built. Dante raised his glass. To Marilyn, the most dangerous woman I've ever had the pleasure of partnering with. They touched glasses, and she felt something shift. Not romance, not yet, but recognition. Two people who'd survived bad situations and come out stronger, sharper, more certain of their own worth. That's when he told a story about his disastrous marriage to a woman who'd wanted a paycheck and a mansion, not a partner. The way he described their divorce made Marilyn laugh so hard, wine came out her nose. She was mortified, grabbing napkins and apologizing. Dante just laughed harder. That's how you know you're with the right people. When you can be messy and it's funny instead of mortifying. I just snorted wine at a business dinner. Good. You're human. I was starting to wonder if you were actually a robot programmed to win every legal battle ever. She threw a wadded napkin at him. He threw one back. They both dissolved into laughter that felt like medicine for wounds they'd been carrying too long. Her phone buzzed. Shane's number, somehow unblocked. A text. Can we just talk? Please. I don't know who I am without you. The laughter died. Dante noticed. Him again? Always him. He doesn't understand that no contact means no contact. Want me to have my lawyers send him a cease and desist? No. He'll stop eventually, once he realizes I'm actually gone. She turned off her phone completely. Tonight's about work, about the future, about building something that actually matters. Speaking of which, Dante pulled out another folder. I have eyes on 3 more properties. A warehouse in the industrial district, an old office building on 5th Avenue, and a shopping center that's been in bankruptcy for 2 years. That's aggressive. We haven't even broken ground on the hotel yet. We will in 3 weeks, and I don't believe in waiting. The market's perfect right now for distressed acquisitions. He spread the photos across the table. What do you see? Marilyn studied them with a lawyer's precision and an investor's imagination. The warehouse could become loft apartments. The office building could convert to mixed-use retail and residential. The shopping center could demolish and rebuild as something modern. I see $200 million in potential revenue over 5 years. I see partnership that's going to make us both very wealthy. He leaned back. You know what I like about you, Marilyn? You don't second-guess yourself. Shane probably made you doubt every decision. Every day. He'd agree with me in private, then defer to his father in public. Made me feel like I was always wrong, even when I was right. That's because he knew you were smarter than him and couldn't handle it. Dante signaled for the check. Men like Shane need women to be their audience, not their equals. It's pathetic. They walked back to the parking garage together, still talking about property acquisitions and market timing and profit projections. At her car, Dante paused. I have a confession. When I offered you this partnership, it wasn't just because you're brilliant. Her heart did something unexpected. No? No. It was because anyone who could systematically destroy their husband's entire life in 3 weeks is someone I definitely want as my partner, not my enemy, she laughed. Smart man. I try. He opened her car door for her. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we're meeting with the City Planning Commission about the hotel permits. I need you sharp. I'm always sharp. I know. That's why we're going to be very successful together. She drove home feeling lighter than she had in months. The penthouse was dark and quiet. No Shane stumbling in drunk at midnight. No walking on eggshells around his fragile ego. No pretending to be less than she was to make someone else comfortable. Just her space, her success, her future unfolding exactly as she designed it. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dante. "Forgot to mention, you had wine on your chin for the last 20 minutes of dinner. I didn't want to embarrass you in public. Very elegant, counselor." She texted back, "I hate you." "No, you don't. See you at 8 tomorrow. Don't be late." She smiled at her phone like a teenager, then caught herself. This was business. Dante was her partner, not her rebound. She needed to keep things professional. But as she got ready for bed, she kept replaying their conversation. The way he'd listened when she talked, the way he'd challenged her ideas without dismissing them, the way he'd made her feel capable and valued and seen. Shane had never made her feel seen. Her phone buzzed again. Shane this time, having gotten a new number. "I went by the office today. They wouldn't let me in. My own company, and I'm banned. How can you be this cruel?" She blocked the number without responding. But something made her pull up Dante's text thread instead. "Can't sleep, thinking about the Fifth Avenue property. What if we convert it to boutique offices instead of residential?" His reply came immediately. "Now you're thinking like a developer. Let's run numbers tomorrow. And Marilyn, you're going to be great at this." "I know. Confidence. I like it. Good night, partner." She fell asleep, smiling. Blueprints spread across her bed, her mind already 3 projects ahead. The next morning, Shane showed up at her office. She was in the conference room with Dante and their architect when security called. "Ms. Johansson, your husband is in the lobby. He's insisting he needs to speak with you." "Ex-husband. And tell him I'm in a meeting. He says it's urgent." Dante looked up from the site plans. "Want me to handle it?" "No, I will." She stood, straightening her suit. "This will only take a minute." Shane was pacing the lobby like a caged animal. He looked terrible. Unshaven, wrinkled clothes, dark circles under his eyes. Part of her felt guilty. The larger part felt nothing at all. "Marilyn, thank God. I've been trying to reach you for weeks." "I know. I've been ignoring you. That's generally what ignoring means. Please, just give me 5 minutes." She checked her watch. "You have 3. I'm in the middle of something actually important. I don't have a job. I don't have a company. Julia's in the hospital. My parents won't even talk to me." His voice cracked. "I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I'll end things with Julia. I'll do whatever you want." "You think I want you back?" The idea was so absurd she almost laughed. "Shane, I'm building something real now. You were just practice." "I don't understand. We had 8 years together. That has to mean something." "It meant something. It taught me exactly what I don't want in a partner." She saw Dante through the glass conference room wall, watching to make sure she was okay. "I need to get back to work." "You're sleeping with him already?" Shane followed her gaze. "Jesus, Marilyn, the divorce isn't even final." "I'm working with him. Not that it's any of your business what I do with my personal life anymore." "So you are sleeping with him?" "No, but when I do, it'll be because I want to, not because someone made vows they never meant." She started toward the elevator. "Don't come here again, Shane. You're not welcome." He grabbed her arm. Not hard, but enough to stop her. "I love you." She pulled away. "You love what I did for you. That's not the same thing." "What does he have that I don't?" "Respect, vision, the ability to see me as an equal instead of an asset." She pressed the elevator button. "And he's never once made me feel small to make himself feel big." The elevator arrived. She stepped in. Shane stood in the lobby looking shattered, and she felt nothing except relief when the doors closed between them. Back in the conference room, Dante was reviewing structural drawings. He looked up when she entered. "Everything okay?" "Fine. Where were we?" "The load-bearing walls on the 3rd floor. But Marilyn, if you need to..." I don't need to do anything except get these permits approved and break ground on the hotel. She pulled up the zoning maps on her laptop. Now, about those load-bearing walls. Dante studied her for a moment, then nodded. The engineer says we can remove them if we add support beams, but it'll cost an extra 200,000. Worth it if it gives us the open floor plan you want. Let's do it. They worked until midnight, only stopping when the architect fell asleep at the conference table. Dante drove her home, both of them too wired to stop talking about the project. At her building, he walked her to the door. You handled Shane well today. You were watching. I was prepared to intervene if necessary, but you had it covered. He leaned against the doorframe. I've never met anyone who walks away from her past so completely. That's because my past wasn't worth keeping. And your future? My future is going to be extraordinary. She met his eyes. We're going to build something that outlasts both of us. Partners. Partners. He didn't try to kiss her, just smiled and walked back to his car. She watched him drive away, feeling something she couldn't quite name. Not love, too soon for that, but possibility. The sense that her life was becoming something bigger than she'd ever imagined it could be. Her phone buzzed. Shane again, from yet another new number. I saw him walk you to your door. Is this what we've become? Strangers who hurt each other? She blocked the number and went inside, not bothering to respond. Shane was her past. Dante was her present. And her future. Her future was waiting to be built. Chapter 5. The Unraveling. Julia gave birth to a son in March while Shane sat in a lawyer's office trying to explain why he couldn't afford child support. 3 months had passed since the board meeting that destroyed his life. 3 months of unemployment, rejected job applications, and watching his former company thrive under new management while he drowned in debt. The baby came early, 36 weeks, small but healthy. Julia's mother called Shane from the hospital. Your son is here. You should come meet him. Shane went, held the tiny infant, and felt nothing except terror. This was his child, his responsibility, his future, and he had no idea how to provide for any of it. Julia looked exhausted, her hair matted with sweat, her face puffy from hours of labor. She'd been beautiful once, young and fun and easy. Now she looked as tired as he felt. We should name him after your father. She was trying to be sweet, to recreate the romance they'd had before everything fell apart. My father won't even talk to me. I'm not naming my son after someone who disowned me. Shane, don't be dramatic. Dramatic? Julia, I have no job, no savings, no prospects. My ex-wife took everything. How am I supposed to support a baby? She started crying. Again. She was always crying now. Upset about something he'd said or didn't say. Worried about money or his mood or whether he even wanted this baby. I thought you'd be happy. This is what you wanted. I wanted a baby with a wife who wasn't constantly criticizing everything I did. I wanted a family with someone who made me feel successful, not like a failure. I'm not criticizing you. I'm asking you to be present. The nurse came in and told them to keep their voices down. Other families were trying to rest. Shane left before he said something he'd regret more than he already regretted everything. He drove to his studio apartment, the cheapest place he could find after Marilyn kept the house, and stared at rejection emails on his laptop. No one wanted to hire him. His reputation was destroyed. The story of his spectacular failure had spread through the business community like wildfire. Marilyn Johansson's husband, the guy who got his company sold out from under him, the idiot who cheated on one of the smartest attorneys in the state. His mother called that night. She'd heard about the baby from Julia's mother. You need to step up, be a father, take responsibility. With what money, Mum? You and Dad cut me off because you embarrassed us. You destroyed your marriage, lost your company, got some girl pregnant. What did you expect? I expected my family to support me. We supported you for 35 years. We gave you every advantage, and you threw it all away for what? A younger woman who made you feel important." His mother's voice was sharp. "Marilyn made you successful. Without her, you're nothing." She hung up. Shane sat in his dark apartment and realized she was right. Without Marilyn's money, her connections, her brilliance smoothing every rough edge, he was just an average guy with mediocre ideas and an inflated ego. He'd thought Julia would fix that, would make him feel powerful and needed and important. Instead, she'd just given him another responsibility he couldn't handle. His phone buzzed. Julia's lawyer. She was filing for full custody and maximum child support based on his previous income, not his current situation. The baby was 4 hours old, and already he was being sued. Shane called his lawyer in a panic. "They can't do that. I don't have a job. They can file based on your earning potential. You made $300,000 a year as CEO. The court will calculate support accordingly." "But I'm not CEO anymore. I work at a coffee shop." "Then you better find a better job fast, because if you can't pay, they'll garnish your wages and potentially charge you with contempt." He ended the call and threw his phone across the room. It shattered against the wall, screen splintering into a spiderweb of cracks. Everything was falling apart, and he couldn't figure out how to stop it. Meanwhile, Marilyn and Dante's first development opened to the public, and the results exceeded every projection they'd made. The hotel conversion, now called the Meridian, sold all 72 units in 73 hours. Prices ranged from $600,000 for a one-bedroom to $3 million for the penthouse. Total revenue, $98 million. After construction costs and fees, their profit was $24 million, split evenly between them. Marilyn had made $12 million in 6 months, more than she'd earned in her entire legal career. They celebrated on the rooftop of the Meridian, champagne in hand, watching the sun set over the city they were reshaping. "To our first success," Dante raised his glass. "And to many more. To partnership." Marilyn touched her glass to his. "To building something that actually matters." She'd never felt this satisfied after a legal victory. Winning cases had always been about proving herself, about being the smartest person in the room. This was different. This was creating something tangible, something that would exist long after she was gone. "I have news." Dante pulled out his phone. "I got the approval on the warehouse conversion. We break ground in 2 weeks." "Already? The permits just came through yesterday." "I don't believe in waiting. When the opportunity is there, you take it." He scrolled through his phone, showing her architectural renderings. 80 loft-style apartments, rooftop gardens, ground-floor retail. "I'm thinking coffee shops, boutiques, maybe a yoga studio." "Demographics?" "Young professionals, artists, people who want industrial chic with luxury amenities." He zoomed in on the floor plans. "I'm calling it the Foundry. What do you think?" "I think we're going to sell out again." "I know," he grinned at her. "You and me, we see things other people miss. We're going to own this city in 5 years." The sun cast gold light across his face, and Marilyn realized she'd been staring. He was handsome in a way Shane had never been. Confident without arrogance, ambitious without insecurity, successful without needing anyone else to be small. "I never thanked you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For not trying to fix me. For just letting me be angry. You're not broken. You're dangerous. There's a difference." He moved closer. "Shane was an idiot to lose you. But his loss is my gain, so I can't complain." She should step back, keep things professional, maintain boundaries. Instead, she closed the distance and kissed him. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was hungry, desperate, full of months of tension and attraction they'd both been pretending didn't exist. His hands tangled in her hair. Her fingers gripped his jacket. They kissed like people who'd been holding back too long. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Dante laughed. "I was trying to be professional, waiting until we'd completed at least 3 projects before making a move. We just completed 1. That's close enough." I should probably point out that mixing business and personal relationships can get complicated. Everything about my life is already complicated. What's one more thing? He kissed her again, softer this time. I'm falling for you. Have been since that first board meeting when you destroyed your husband with a smile. Just thought you should know. She should say something careful, something that maintained distance and protected her still healing heart. Instead, she told the truth. I'm falling for you too. It terrifies me. Good. Fear means it matters. He pulled her close. But I'm not Shane. I'm not going to make you small so I can feel big. I'm not going to cheat or lie or take you for granted. How do you know? Because I've already seen what you do to men who underestimate you. I'm not that stupid. She laughed against his chest. Smart man. They stayed on that rooftop until the stars came out, talking about the future they were building together. Not just the developments and deals and profits, but the life, the partnership, the possibility of something real. When he drove her home that night, he walked her to her door and kissed her goodnight without trying to come inside. I want to do this right. Take our time. Build something that lasts. Since when are you patient about anything? Since I met someone worth waiting for. He stepped back. Good night, Marilyn. Dream about our next empire. She watched him leave, feeling something she'd thought Shane had killed. Hope. The next morning, Shane showed up at the Meridian's opening celebration looking for Marilyn. Security turned him away. He called her from the parking lot. She answered this time. What do you want, Shane? I saw the news about your building. 98 million in sales. You're a developer now? I'm a lot of things now. What do you want? I need help. Julia's suing me for child support I can't afford. My parents won't talk to me. I have nowhere else to turn. That's not my problem. Marilyn, please. I know I screwed up. I know I don't deserve your help. But I'm desperate. She should feel sorry for him. Should feel something besides cold satisfaction that he was finally experiencing consequences. You had everything, Shane. A successful company, a wife who loved you, a family that supported you, and you traded it all for 9 months with a younger woman who made you feel powerful. I know. I was an idiot. No, you were selfish. There's a difference. She saw Dante through the glass doors of the Meridian, laughing with investors. I'm done saving you from yourself. Figure it out. Don't you miss what we had? The question stopped her. Did she miss it? The comfort of routine, the familiarity of 8 years together, the safety of knowing someone completely. Every day. But then I remember who I am now, and I stopped missing who I had to be for you. I love you. You love what I did for you. That's not the same thing. She ended the call before he could respond. Dante was waiting inside with champagne and investors who wanted to discuss their next project. Her future was calling, and her past could fend for itself. Shane went back to Julia's hospital room that afternoon. The baby was in her arms, tiny and perfect and terrifying. We need to talk about support, Julia said. No greeting, no warmth, just business. I'll pay what I can. That's not good enough. Your son deserves more than whatever scraps you can manage. Our son, and I'm doing my best. Your best destroyed everything. Your best got you fired, divorced, and alone. She adjusted the baby in her arms. I'm moving to Seattle. My parents will help me raise him. You can visit when you get your life together. You can't just take my son across the country. Watch me. She rang for the nurse. Get out, Shane. Come back when you're actually ready to be a father. He left the hospital feeling like a ghost of the man he'd been. No wife, no job, no company, no family, no son, just consequences he'd spent his whole life avoiding. His phone buzzed with a news alert. Johansson Reeves Development breaks ground on second luxury project. Partners describe vision for transforming city's waterfront. There was a photo of Marilyn and Dante holding shovels at a construction site, both smiling. She looked radiant, powerful, free. She'd moved on, built something new, become someone better, and he was stuck in the ruins of everything he'd destroyed, with no one to blame but himself. Chapter 6. The Empire Rises. By summer, Marilyn had forgotten what Shane's voice sounded like, but she could still remember every word Dante whispered when they stayed up planning their future. 8 months had passed since the Christmas Eve that changed everything. 8 months of demolishing her old life and building something magnificent from the rubble. The foundry opened in June to the same massive success as the Meridian. 80 units sold in 5 days, 32 million in profit. Marilyn and Dante were quickly becoming the most talked-about developers in the city, with 3 more projects already in planning stages. They'd also become the most talked-about couple, though they'd kept that part private for months. After their first kiss on the Meridian's rooftop, they'd tried to maintain professional boundaries. That lasted approximately 3 weeks before Dante showed up at her penthouse at midnight with Thai food and blueprints, and they'd ended up making love on her living room floor surrounded by architectural drawings. Now, he practically lived at her place. His clothes hung in her closet next to her power suits. His coffee mug sat beside hers on the kitchen counter. They'd fallen into an easy domesticity that felt nothing like her marriage. No walking on eggshells, no making herself smaller, no exhausting performance of being the perfect wife. With Dante, she could just be Marilyn, ambitious, demanding, brilliant, flawed, and he loved every sharp edge of her. They were reviewing plans for their 5th development when Shane's number appeared on her phone. A mutual friend must have given it to him. She'd blocked 17 numbers so far. "Don't answer it," Dante said, without looking up from the structural drawings. "I'm not." But the phone kept buzzing, text after text. "Please just talk to me. I'm not asking for money. I just need closure." "Don't you owe me that much?" Marilyn sighed. "He's not going to stop." "Then let me handle it." "No, I will. One last time. Then I'm done forever." She agreed to meet Shane at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory, public place. Dante wanted to come with her, but she refused. This was her past to bury, not his battle to fight. Shane looked worse than she remembered, thin, exhausted, wearing clothes that had seen better days. He was working 2 jobs now, coffee shop in the morning, bartender at night, barely making rent on his studio apartment. Julia had moved to Seattle with the baby, and he couldn't afford to visit. He stood when she arrived, trying for a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You came. I have 20 minutes. Then I have a meeting with the mayor about zoning for our waterfront project." "Right, I saw that in the news. You're everywhere now, big-time developer, dating that guy who bought my company. His name is Dante, and we're partners, in every sense of the word." They sat. The coffee shop was crowded with the lunch rush, people laughing and working and living normal lives. Shane looked at her like she was a stranger, which she supposed she was now. "I don't know who I am without you," he said quietly. "Then you never knew yourself. I'm not your identity, Shane. But I built my whole life around you. The company, the house, our future. It was all for us." "No, it was all with my money, in my house, for your ego." She stirred sugar into her coffee with precision. "You built nothing. You borrowed everything and called it achievement. That's not fair. Fair would have been you reading the prenuptial agreement before signing it. Fair would have been you contributing equally to our partnership instead of treating me like a bank account with benefits." She met his eyes. "But I'm not here to argue about the past. What do you want?" "Julia left. Took my son to Seattle. I have nothing. You have yourself. That should be enough." "It's not enough. I'm not enough." His voice cracked. "Don't you miss what we had?" The question hung between them. Did she miss it? The safety of routine, the comfort of familiarity, the 8 years of shared history. "Every day," she admitted. "But then I remember who I am now, and I stopped missing who I had to be for you." "What does that mean?" "It means you needed me small so you could feel big. You needed me to dim my light so yours seemed brighter. You needed me to fail so you could pretend to succeed." She finished her coffee. "With Dante, I don't have to be anything except exactly who I am. That's the difference between settling and thriving. So this is it? 8 years together and you just walk away?" "Shane, you walked away. You stood in your parents' house and told everyone Julia was your real family. You made your choice. I just finally respected it." His hands shook around his coffee cup. "I was wrong. I was scared and stupid and wrong. I thought Julia would make me feel powerful because she needed me in ways you never did. I needed you. I needed a partner, someone who celebrated my success instead of resenting it, someone who saw me as an equal instead of a threat." She gathered her things. "But you needed an audience, not a wife. And I'm done performing. I love you. You love what I represented. Security, status, success you could claim by proximity." She stood. "That's not love. That's ownership. Please, just give me another chance. I gave you 8 years of chances. I'm out of second opportunities for men who don't see my value until I'm gone." She left him sitting there, staring into his coffee like it held answers to questions he was too afraid to ask himself. As she pushed through the door into the bright summer day, her phone rang. "Dante. How did it go?" "It's done. He's officially my past now." "And your future?" "My future is waiting for me at a meeting with the mayor in 30 minutes. Get the presentation ready." "Already done. God, you're sexy when you're ruthless." She laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. "I'm always ruthless." "I know. That's why I'm in love with you." The words stopped her on the sidewalk, pedestrians flowing around her like water around a stone. "You love me?" "Completely. Desperately. In a way that's probably terrible for my negotiating leverage, but I don't care." She could hear his smile through the phone. "I love you, Marilyn. Have since that first board meeting when you systematically destroyed your husband's life with a spreadsheet and a smile." She should be careful, should protect her heart, should remember that love was what got her hurt last time. Instead, she found herself saying, "I love you too, it terrifies me." Good. Fear means it matters. Now get to City Hall before we lose this deal. The meeting with the mayor went perfectly. They secured zoning approval for their waterfront project, a mixed-use development that would include 300 residential units, 50,000 square feet of commercial space, and a public marina. Projected value, $400 million. On the way out of City Hall, they ran into a reporter from the business section. "Ms. Johansson, Mr. Reeves, you two are transforming the city's landscape. What's your secret?" Dante answered before Marilyn could. "We believe in partnership. Real partnership. Equal investment, equal voice, equal reward. That's how you build something that lasts. And on a personal level, rumor has it you two are more than business partners." Marilyn smiled. "That's private. But I will say this. True partnership in business requires the same things as true partnership in life. Respect, trust, the willingness to let your partner shine without feeling threatened by their light." The reporter scribbled notes. "Is there a message there for your ex-husband?" "No message. He's not part of my story anymore." That night, Dante cooked dinner at her penthouse while Marilyn worked on contracts for the waterfront deal. This was their routine now. Comfortable domesticity mixed with ambitious empire building. They worked side by side, argued about design details, made love on the kitchen counter, then went back to work until the early hours. It was exhausting and exhilarating, and nothing like her marriage had been. "I have something for you," Dante said over wine after dinner. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents for the waterfront project, but with one major change. The company name at the top. Johansson Reeves Development. "What is this?" "A rebrand. Equal partners should have equal names on the door." He watched her face carefully. "What do you think?" "I think you're either the smartest man I've ever met or the craziest." "Both." Definitely both. He took her hand. You've made me richer, sharper, better at everything I do. Your name should be just as prominent as mine. Equal partners, equal names, equal everything. She stared at the documents, feeling something crack open in her chest. Shane had never put her name on anything. Not his company, not the house, not even their joint accounts. Everything had been his, and she'd just been the support staff. Thank you. Don't thank me. This isn't charity. This is recognition of reality. He pulled her close. You're the best thing that's ever happened to my business and my life. Why would I hide that? They made love on the couch, slow and intense, trading control back and forth like the equals they were. Afterward, tangled together in the dim light, Dante traced patterns on her shoulder. Move in with me. You practically live here already. I mean, officially, permanently. Let's find a place that's ours, not yours or mine. Something we choose together. She should say it was too soon. They'd only been together for 6 months. Her divorce wasn't even final yet, but nothing about their relationship had been conventional. Why start now? Okay. Okay? He pulled back to look at her. Just like that. Just like that. Let's find a place with space for a home office and a huge kitchen and a view that reminds us why we're building this empire. He kissed her forehead. I love you, Marilyn Johansson. I love your brilliance and your ruthlessness and the way you negotiate like you're going to war. I love you too, even though you make terrible coffee and leave architectural drawings all over the apartment. Our apartment, soon. They fell asleep on the couch, blueprints scattered around them, the city lights glowing through the windows like promises of everything they were building together. Shane saw the news about the company rebrand the next morning on his phone. Johansson Reeves Development, equal partners, equal names. He thought about how he'd never given Marilyn credit for anything, how he'd introduced her as his wife, not as an attorney, how he'd dismissed her achievements while taking credit for successes she'd engineered, how he'd been so threatened by her competence that he'd sabotaged their marriage rather than celebrate having a partner that brilliant. Julia called from Seattle. The baby had a fever. She needed money for the doctor. He had $50 in his account, and payday was 3 days away. I'll send what I can, he told her, knowing it wouldn't be enough. Your son is sick, and you're sending $50. Grow up, Shane. I'm trying. I'm working 2 jobs. I'm doing everything I can. No, you're doing the minimum, like you always did, like you did with Marilyn. She paused. I used to feel guilty about the affair, about being the reason your marriage ended. But I've realized something. Your marriage was already over. You just hadn't noticed because Marilyn was too busy keeping everything together while you played entrepreneur. That's not fair. Neither was getting pregnant by a man who couldn't handle being married to someone smarter than him. She ended the call. Shane stared at his phone, at the news article about Marilyn's success, at the photo of her and Dante looking happy and powerful and completely in sync. He'd lost the best thing that ever happened to him because he couldn't handle being the less successful partner. And now she was building an empire with someone who celebrated her strength instead of fearing it. He had no one to blame but himself. Chapter 7. The Final Purchase. The Garner family mansion sold for $18 million to an anonymous buyer, and Shane's mother wept in the driveway as movers packed her things. 10 months had passed since Christmas Eve. 10 months since Marilyn had heard Shane call Julia his real family. 10 months of building something better than revenge. Building a life so successful, so full of love and partnership, that Shane's betrayal felt like a gift instead of a wound. The Garner estate going to auction was Shane's fault, indirectly. His business collapse had triggered a series of financial disasters for his family. His father had co-signed loans for the tech company that went unpaid. His mother had invested her inheritance in Shane's ventures. When everything fell apart, it took their wealth with it. Marilyn had learned about the auction from a real estate newsletter. The property was listed at $15 million, but properties that size with that much history usually went for more. She'd been scrolling through listings with Dante one morning over coffee when she saw it. "That's Shane's parents' house." Dante looked at the photos. "Prime location, good bones, needs updating but solid investment potential. It's where I heard him say Julia was his real family. Then it's where your new life started." He studied her face. "Want to buy it?" She should say no, should let the past stay in the past, should be the bigger person and move on without this final act of dominance. Instead, she heard herself say, "Yes, I want to buy it." For what purpose? Residential? Commercial? "I'm turning it into a shelter for women leaving abusive marriages. Seems fitting." Dante grinned. "That's the most beautiful revenge I've ever heard. Let's make it happen." They set up the purchase through one of Dante's subsidiary companies to keep Marilyn's name off the paperwork. Anonymous buyer, all cash, closing in 2 weeks. The Garners accepted the offer without knowing who was behind it. On moving day, Marilyn drove past the estate just to see it. Watched Shane's mother standing in the driveway crying while movers carried out furniture and artwork and family heirlooms. Watched Shane himself helping load boxes into a truck, his face hollow with exhaustion. She didn't stop, didn't gloat, just drove past and felt nothing except satisfaction that she'd turned the sight of her greatest humiliation into something that would help hundreds of women reclaim their power. That night, Shane found out. His mother called him, sobbing. "Your ex-wife took our home. She bought it out from under us. She's turning it into some kind of shelter." Shane didn't believe it until he saw the incorporation papers. The property was owned by Reeves Development Group, which was owned jointly by Dante Reeves and Marilyn Johansson. His ex-wife had bought his childhood home. He showed up at Marilyn's penthouse that evening, somehow getting past security. She was working in her home office when the doorbell rang. Dante answered it before she could. "Can I help you?" "I need to talk to Marilyn." "She's not interested in talking to you." "Please, just 5 minutes." Marilyn appeared behind Dante, hand on his shoulder. "It's fine. I'll handle this." She stepped into the hallway, not inviting Shane inside. He looked worse every time she saw him, thinner, older, defeated. "How can you be this cruel?" "I'm not cruel. I'm a real estate investor. The property was undervalued. I made a business decision. That house has been in my family for 3 generations. Then your family should have managed their finances better." She crossed her arms. "What did you expect, Shane? You destroyed our marriage. Your parents celebrated it. Your mother called me inadequate at every family dinner for 8 years. Why would I feel sympathy now?" "Because you're better than this. The woman I married wouldn't take joy in hurting people. The woman you married doesn't exist anymore. You killed her when you chose Julia." She stepped back toward her door. "Go home, Shane. There's nothing left to discuss." "What are you going to do with the house?" "I told you, it's becoming a shelter for women leaving abusive marriages. A place where they can rebuild their lives, get legal help, find their power again." She paused. "Women like I would have been if I'd stayed married to you. I never abused you. No, you just made me feel small every day for 8 years. You just resented my success and sabotaged my confidence and cheated on me with someone who made you feel important." She met his eyes. "That's abuse, Shane. It's just quieter than hitting." He broke down then, tears streaming down his face, body shaking with sobs. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. I don't know how to make this right." "You can't make it right. That's the point." Her voice was gentle now, almost kind. "This is what consequence looks like. You made choices. Now you live with them. I have nothing left. No job, no family, no home. Julia won't let me see my son unless I get my life together, and I don't know how to do that. Start by taking responsibility. Stop blaming everyone else for the mess you created. Stop expecting women to save you from yourself." She reached for her door. "I'm not your enemy, Shane. I'm just not your solution anymore." Dante appeared in the doorway. Shane saw how he stood, protective but not possessive, present but not controlling. Saw how Marilyn leaned into him naturally, comfortably, like she'd found a place she fit. "Is this him?" Shane's voice was bitter. "Your revenge?" "No. He's my future. You're just my past. He looks at you the way I should have. He looks at me like an equal. You never did that." Shane turned to leave, then stopped. "I loved you. I really did." "I know. But you loved what I did for you more than who I was. That was always the problem." She closed the door before he could respond. Inside, Dante pulled her close. "You okay?" "I'm perfect." She kissed him. "Let's finalize the plans for the waterfront project. We have work to do." They spent the evening reviewing architectural drawings and financial projections, Shane's visit already fading into irrelevance. This was her life now, building things that mattered with someone who saw her value. The past was just a story she'd finished reading. 3 weeks later, the Garner estate reopened as Johansson House, a shelter providing free legal services, housing, and support for women leaving difficult marriages. The grand opening made the news. Photos of Marilyn cutting the ribbon, Dante beside her, both smiling at the cameras. "This facility will help up to 50 women at a time," Marilyn told reporters. "We'll provide housing for up to 6 months, legal representation, job training and counseling, everything they need to rebuild their lives with dignity and power." "Why this location?" a reporter asked. "Because this house represents old money, old thinking, old ideas about what women should be. We're transforming it into something that helps women become who they actually are." Shane watched the coverage from his apartment, saw his childhood home transformed, saw his ex-wife celebrated as a philanthropist and developer, saw how she'd taken the place where she'd been humiliated and turned it into her greatest triumph. He'd lost everything, she'd won everything, and the difference was that she'd earned it while he'd just expected it to be given to him. Chapter 8. The Proposal. Marilyn said yes to the ring, but asked for one thing before they set a date. She needed Shane to witness the woman she'd become without him. 1 year had passed since the Christmas Eve that changed everything. 1 year of building Johansson Reeves' development into a $400 million empire. 1 year of falling deeply in love with a man who celebrated her strength instead of fearing it. Dante proposed on the rooftop of their newest building, the Meridian 2, an even more ambitious project than their first. 50 floors of luxury residences with views of the entire city. They'd just signed papers selling the penthouse for $12 million when he pulled out a small velvet box. "Marry me." No romantic speech, no elaborate plan. Just 2 words and a ring that took her breath away, a stunning emerald surrounded by diamonds, unique and bold and nothing like the traditional diamond Shane had given her. "You're serious?" "Completely. I want to build the rest of my life with you. I want to create more beautiful buildings and argue about zoning laws and make love on blueprints until we're too old to remember where we left our glasses." He took her hand. "I want partnership, Marilyn. The legal kind that makes us next of kin, gives us rights to medical decisions, ties our assets together officially. I want everyone to know you're mine and I'm yours." She should have said yes immediately. The answer was yes, had been yes, since their first kiss on that rooftop a year ago, but something held her back. "I need one thing first." "Name it." "I need Shane to see who I've become, not to hurt him, not for revenge, but because I need to close that chapter completely before I start a new one with you." Dante studied her face. "You want him at the wedding?" "No. God, no. I just need him to witness that I'm moving on, that I built something extraordinary from the rubble of our marriage, that his betrayal was the best thing that ever happened to me." "That's fair." He slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. "But you're saying yes, right?" "I'm saying yes. Absolutely yes. Forever, yes." He kissed her there on the rooftop, as the sun set over the city they were reshaping together. Before she could announce the engagement, Julia reached out. They met for lunch at a cafe downtown. Neutral territory, no history attached. Julia looked exhausted. Single motherhood was hard, especially when the father was too broke to help. The baby was 11 months old now, crawling and getting into everything. "Thank you for meeting me. I almost didn't come, but I'm curious what you want to say." Marilyn ordered coffee, studying the woman who'd helped destroy her marriage. "I need to apologize, and to ask you something." "Apologize for what? Sleeping with my husband? Getting pregnant? Telling him you'd be his real family?" Julia flinched. "You knew about that?" "I heard everything. I was outside the house on Christmas Eve, about to surprise everyone. Instead, I got the best gift I've ever received. The truth. I'm sorry. I thought I was special, that he chose me, that we had something real." Julia stirred sugar into her tea with shaking hands. "But he's not who he said he was. None of it was real." "I know. I lived it for 8 years. He talked about you constantly, how demanding you were, how you cared more about your career than him, how you made him feel inadequate." Julia met Marilyn's eyes. "Now I understand. He felt inadequate because you're extraordinary, and he couldn't handle being married to someone smarter and more successful. So you're realizing this a year too late. I'm realizing I destroyed your marriage for nothing. He's a terrible father. He's broken, bitter and angry at everyone except himself. And I'm stuck raising our son alone while he blames me for his problems." Marilyn should feel vindicated. Should enjoy watching Julia realize she'd traded stability and partnership for 9 months of excitement and 20 years of co-parenting with a man-child. Instead, she felt pity. "What do you want from me?" "Advice. How do you move on from someone who made you feel small? How do you rebuild after you've destroyed everything? You stop waiting for them to save you and you save yourself." Marilyn pulled out a business card. "This is my friend Rebecca. She's a lawyer who specializes in custody cases. She'll help you get proper support from Shane and protect your son's future. Tell her I sent you." "You're helping me, after everything." "I'm helping you because I remember what it's like to need support and have no one offer it. I'm helping you because your son deserves better than Shane's excuses. And I'm helping you because holding grudges takes energy I'd rather spend building something better." Julia took the card with tears in her eyes. "Thank you. I thought you'd hate me." "I did, for about 3 months. Then I realized you freed me. I should send you a thank you card." They parted with understanding, 2 women who'd survived the same man and came out stronger for it. That night, Marilyn called Shane. "I'm getting married. I wanted you to know before you hear it elsewhere." Silence. Then, "To him, the developer? His name is Dante." And yes. More silence. She could hear him breathing, processing, breaking. "Are you happy?" The question surprised her. Not angry, not bitter. Just genuine curiosity from a man who'd never understood what made her happy. "I'm powerful. That's better." "What's the difference?" "Happy is a feeling. Powerful is a state of being. Happiness comes and goes. Power is something you build and keep." She paused. "I'm both, actually. Happy and powerful. For the first time in my life." "I'm glad. You deserve that." "I know. I'm sorry, Marilyn. For everything. For making you small. For not seeing your value. For destroying something precious because I was too scared to rise to your level. I know you're sorry. But sorry doesn't rebuild what you demolished." "I understand." He took a breath. "Will you tell me one thing? Just one honest thing?" "Maybe. Did you ever really love me? Or was I just convenient?" She thought about it. The young lawyer who'd been so eager to prove herself. The woman who'd convinced herself Shane's family connections mattered more than partnership. The wife who'd spent 8 years performing contentment while slowly suffocating. "I loved who I thought you were, but that person never existed. And Dante is the first real thing I've ever had." She ended the call gently, not cruelly. Shane was her past, and she'd already forgiven him for being exactly who he was, a man too insecure to celebrate someone else's success. Dante came home an hour later with Chinese food and more blueprints. Found her curled up on the couch with a glass of wine, staring at her engagement ring. Second thoughts? Never. Just making peace with my first marriage so I can fully commit to my second. He sat beside her, pulling her close. What do you need? I need Shane to witness the wedding. Not as a guest, just to see it, to understand what I built after he destroyed us. That's cruel. No, that's closure. She kissed him. I want him to see me marry someone who sees my value, someone who celebrates my success instead of resenting it, someone who makes me bigger instead of smaller. When you put it that way, it's actually kind of perfect. He pulled out his phone. Where do you want to get married? I have an idea, but you're going to think I'm crazy. I already think you're crazy. That's why I love you. She told him her plan. He listened, then started laughing. That's the most brilliant, devastating, perfectly planned revenge I've ever heard. Let's do it. Chapter 9. The Confession. Shane stood in front of the woman he'd betrayed and said the words that proved he'd learned nothing. I was scared of how successful you were. The day after Marilyn called to announce her engagement, Shane showed up at her office. He'd asked for 5 minutes, promised he just needed to explain himself, sworn he wasn't trying to win her back. She'd agreed to meet him one final time before the wedding. Dante had wanted to be there, but she'd refused. This was her past to bury, alone. Shane sat across from her in the conference room that had once witnessed his greatest humiliation. A year ago, she'd destroyed his company in this building. Now he was back voluntarily to confess things he should have said 8 years ago. Why were you scared? Because you were everything. Smarter, more successful, more respected. Everyone knew you were the reason our marriage worked, the reason I had any credibility at all. He twisted his hands together. My own parents used to joke that I'd married up. Do you know what that does to a man's ego? I know what it did to yours. It made you sabotage the one good thing you had. Julia made me feel powerful. She needed me. She looked up to me. With you, I was always chasing, always trying to prove I deserved to be your husband. You did deserve it, until you decided you didn't want to do the work anymore. What work? The work of being an equal partner, the work of celebrating someone else's success, the work of not making their achievements about your insecurities. Marilyn poured water from the pitcher on the table. You wanted a cheerleader, not a partner. That was always the problem. I see that now. Too late, but I see it. She studied him, this man she'd once loved enough to marry, now looking like a stranger who vaguely resembled someone she'd once known. Why are you really here, Shane? Because I need you to know I've changed. I'm in therapy. I'm working on myself. I'm trying to be a better father to my son. That's good. Genuinely good. But it doesn't change anything between us. I know. I just need you to know that I understand now. What I lost. What I threw away. He pulled out his phone, showed her a photo. A baby boy with Shane's eyes. This is my son. His name is Henry. Julia finally let me start having supervised visits. Marilyn looked at the photo, felt nothing except mild curiosity about genetics. He's beautiful. He is, and every time I hold him, I think about how I'll never make him feel small to make myself feel big. How I'll teach him to celebrate strong women instead of feeling threatened by them. How I'll be a better man than my father taught me to be. That's the best thing you've said in this entire conversation. Being a father is teaching me what partnership actually means. How it's not about being the most important person in the room. It's about making the people you love feel valued. He put his phone away. I should have learned that with you. I'm sorry I didn't. Marilyn felt something release in her chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. Shane hadn't destroyed their marriage out of malice. He'd destroyed it out of fear and insecurity and the inability to grow beyond what his upbringing had taught him about marriage and power. "I forgive you." He looked up, shocked. "You do?" "Not for you. For me. I'm getting married in 2 weeks and I don't want to carry anger into my new life." She stood. "But forgiving you doesn't mean I want you in my life. It just means I'm done letting you take up space in my head." "Fair enough." He stood too. "Can I ask one more question?" "One. What if I had chosen differently that Christmas? What if I'd never been with Julia?" Marilyn smiled. "Then I'd still be small enough to fit in your life. I'm grateful you set me free." She walked him to the elevator. In the lobby he paused. "Your new husband. He loves you the way you deserve. He loves me powerful, not small. He celebrates my success instead of resenting it. He sees me as an equal instead of a threat." She pressed the elevator button for him. "Everything you should have been but never could be." The doors opened. Shane stepped inside, then turned back. "I hope he knows how lucky he is." "He does. That's the difference." The doors closed. Marilyn stood in the lobby for a moment, feeling lighter than she had in a year. She'd finally said everything she needed to say. Had witnessed Shane's understanding come too late to save their marriage, but just in time to save his relationship with his son. She pulled out her phone and called her wedding planner. "I want to change one thing about the ceremony." "What's that?" "I want it at Johansson House. Exactly 1 year from the day I heard my husband say he was starting a real family." "The shelter? That's unconventional." "Good. That's how I want it." She walked back to her office where Dante was waiting with blueprints and coffee and the comfortable certainty of being exactly where she belonged. "How did it go?" "It's done. He's officially just a chapter in my autobiography now." "A short chapter, I hope." "Very short, titled What Not to Do." She kissed him. "Let's talk about our wedding. I want it to be perfect." They spent the evening planning every detail, decided on Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year from the betrayal that led her to this moment, chose Johansson House as the venue, where shame transformed into strength, where her greatest wound became her greatest triumph. Sent Shane an invitation with a handwritten note. "You're invited to witness what I built from the ruins of what we had. RSVP not required. I know you'll come. You need to see this as much as I need to show you." Dante read the note and laughed. "You're diabolical. I'm strategic. There's a difference. I love you. I know." She pulled up the guest list. 300 people, everyone who matters, everyone who'll witness us promise to build this life together. Equal partners. Equal everything. Chapter 10. The Empire of Love. Christmas Eve arrived again, but this time Marilyn stood on the steps of what used to be her in-laws' mansion, wearing white and surrounded by 300 people who loved her for exactly who she was. The transformation of Johansson House was complete. The estate that once represented old money and older thinking now glowed with warmth and purpose. The shelter was temporarily closed for the wedding, its residents relocated to hotels for the holiday, but their presence lingered in the renovations Marilyn had insisted on. Ramps for accessibility, a children's playroom, offices where women met with lawyers to reclaim their lives. She'd turned the place where she was humiliated into the place where she'd start her new life. The symbolism wasn't subtle, and she didn't want it to be. Snow fell in soft flakes as guests arrived. Business partners, legal colleagues, friends she'd made in her new life. Her parents flew in from Jamaica, her mother crying when she saw her daughter in the ivory gown that cost more than Shane's annual rent. "You look like power wrapped in silk," her mother said, adjusting Marilyn's veil. "I feel like myself." Finally. Dante waited at the altar set up in the grand ballroom, the same room where Shane's family had celebrated Julia's pregnancy exactly 1 year ago. He looked stunning in his tuxedo, his eyes tracking Marilyn's every movement like she was the only person in the world. The ceremony was outside despite the cold. Marilyn wanted snow, wanted the chill in the air to mirror the ice in her veins when she'd heard Shane's betrayal 1 year ago. Wanted to stand in that same winter weather and prove she'd transformed cold into fire. She walked down the aisle alone. No father to give her away because she wasn't property to be transferred. She was a woman choosing her own future, walking toward it with confidence and power and absolute certainty. Halfway down the aisle, she saw him, Shane, standing at the back of the crowd, partially hidden behind other guests. He'd come, just as she knew he would. Couldn't resist witnessing what he'd lost. Their eyes met for half a second. She saw pain there, regret, understanding. She smiled and kept walking. At the altar, Dante took her hands. The officiant began speaking about partnership and commitment and building a life together. Marilyn barely heard it. She was too focused on the man in front of her, the person who'd seen her at her absolute worst and decided she was magnificent anyway. When it came time for vows, Dante went first. Marilyn, I promise to be your partner, not your project. To celebrate every success without jealousy or resentment. To challenge you when you need it and support you always. To build with you, not for you. To see you as my equal in every way that matters. He squeezed her hands. I promise to love you powerful, not small. To make you bigger, never lesser. To spend every day proving I understand your value. Her turn. She'd written and rewritten these vows 12 times, trying to capture what this moment meant. Dante, I promise to be your partner in every sense, to bring my full self to this marriage, my ambition, my drive, my strength, my sharp edges. I promise to let you love me exactly as I am, without diminishing myself to make you comfortable. She felt tears starting but pushed through. I promise to build an empire with you, not behind you, to stand beside you as your equal, to love you fiercely and completely and without reservation. The officiant pronounced them married. Dante kissed her like she was air and he'd been drowning. The crowd erupted in applause. As they walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, Marilyn saw Shane slip away into the evening. She didn't watch him go. Her eyes were forward, on the future she was creating with the man whose hand she held. The reception was held in the same ballroom where Shane's family had once judged her insufficient. Now it was filled with people who celebrated her exactly as she was. The dinner was perfect. The speeches were heartfelt. Her mother toasted to the daughter who learned to demand the love she deserves. Dante's business partner toasted to the partnership that's changing the city's landscape. When it was Marilyn's turn to speak, she stood with her champagne glass and looked around at the faces of everyone who'd supported her journey. 1 year ago, I stood outside this house and heard my husband call another woman his real family. I heard him celebrate starting over with someone else while I was supposedly waiting inside. She paused, letting the impact sink in. In that moment, I could have collapsed, could have begged him to stay, could have made myself smaller to keep a man who didn't value me. She found Dante in the crowd, saw him watching her with pride. Instead, I walked away. I built something new. I learned what real partnership looks like, not someone who needs you to be less so they can be more, but someone who celebrates your power because they're secure in their own. She raised her glass. To everyone here tonight who knows that love isn't about making someone small, it's about building something together that makes you both extraordinary. The crowd cheered. Dante pulled her close and whispered in her ear, have I mentioned how sexy you are when you're making a point? Focus. I'm not done. She turned to the shelter residents who'd been invited back for the reception, 50 women in various stages of rebuilding their lives. This house used to represent everything that makes women feel insufficient. Old money, old rules, old ideas about what we should be. She gestured around the renovated space. Now it's a place where women become who they actually are, where they learn their worth isn't tied to anyone's approval, where they discover that leaving what hurts them is the bravest thing they'll ever do. More applause. Several residents were crying. A year ago, I heard my husband say I wasn't his real family. Today, I found my real family. Everyone who sees power as something to build, not tear down. Everyone who understands that partnership means equal, not lesser. Everyone who knows that the greatest revenge isn't destroying the person who hurt you, but building a life so magnificent they can't help but see what they lost. She raised her glass one more time. To building empires, to finding partners who celebrate your strength, to becoming so powerful that the past doesn't matter anymore. The reception continued late into the night. Dancing and laughter and celebration of two people who'd found each other after surviving separate storms. At midnight, Dante pulled Marilyn aside. They stood on the balcony overlooking the grounds, snow still falling softly. "I have one more gift for you. You already gave me the company rebrand and this perfect wedding. This is different." He handed her a folder. Inside were architectural drawings for their most ambitious project yet, a 50-story mixed-use tower downtown that would house affordable apartments on the lower floors and luxury penthouses at the top. "It's called the Marilyn, because every empire needs a centerpiece, and you're mine." She stared at the drawings, overwhelmed. A building named after her. A tower that would stand for decades, maybe centuries, with her name on it. "This is too much. It's not enough, but it's a start." He pulled her close. "I want the whole city to know who you are, what you've built, what you're capable of." She kissed him there on the balcony, tasting snowflakes and champagne and possibility. "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for letting me." They went back inside to their wedding celebration. At 2 in the morning, exhausted and happy, they left for the airport. Their honeymoon was 2 weeks in Bali. No work, no phones, no blueprints. Just each other and the future they were building together. As their car pulled away from Johansson House, Marilyn looked back one last time, saw the lights glowing, the shelter that would help hundreds of women find their power, saw the place where her old life ended and her new one began. Dante noticed. Any regrets? None. Not a single one. Not even about how it ended with Shane. Especially not that. His betrayal was the best gift he ever gave me. It forced me to remember who I actually was. They drove through the city, past buildings they'd developed together, past the Meridian and the Foundry and all the projects that bore their names. Past Shane's demolished company building, now the site of their next development. "Do you think he's okay?" Dante asked. "Shane, I mean. Eventually, he'll learn to be a father, learn to value people instead of using them, learn that real strength comes from building others up, not tearing them down." She leaned her head on Dante's shoulder. "But that's his journey now, not mine." At the airport, they ran into a reporter doing a holiday travel piece. She recognized them immediately. "Mr. and Mrs. Reeves, congratulations on your wedding. Any words for our viewers?" Dante started to wave her off, but Marilyn stopped him. "Actually, yes. To anyone watching who feels stuck in a situation that makes them small, leave, walk away, rebuild. You're stronger than you think, and there's someone out there who will love you powerful instead of small. Don't settle for less than extraordinary." The reporter beamed. "Beautiful. Where are you headed for your honeymoon?" "Bali. 2 weeks of doing absolutely nothing except enjoying being married." "And when you return," Dante answered this time, "we break ground on the Marilyn, our biggest project yet. 50 stories of mixed-income housing that will reshape the downtown skyline." They boarded their flight holding hands, both exhausted and exhilarated. As the plane took off, Marilyn watched the city lights fade below them, the city they were transforming together, one building at a time. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Shane hadn't cheated? Dante asked as they reached cruising altitude. Never, because if he hadn't, I'd still be making myself smaller to fit his life. I'd still be financing his dreams while mine stayed on hold. I'd still be the woman who apologized for being too successful. She turned to him. His betrayal didn't break me. It freed me to become who I was always meant to be. And who's that? Someone who builds empires. Someone who demands partnership, not performance. Someone who knows her worth isn't tied to anyone's approval. She smiled. Someone powerful enough to turn the worst day of her life into the best thing that ever happened to her. Dante kissed her forehead. I love you, Marilyn Johansson Reeves. I love you too. Now let's sleep. We have 2 weeks of doing nothing, and I want to be well rested for it. They fell asleep, tangled together at 30,000 feet, blueprints forgotten, empires temporarily on hold, just two people who'd found each other in the wreckage of their separate pasts and built something beautiful together. Across town, Shane sat in his studio apartment watching coverage of the wedding on his phone. The news had picked it up. Prominent developer marries city's most successful real estate attorney at the shelter she founded. The photos were everywhere. Marilyn looked radiant, powerful, happy, everything she'd never looked with him. His phone buzzed, Julia calling from Seattle. Did you see the wedding coverage? I saw it. She looks incredible, like she's glowing. I know. That could have been us, Shane, if you'd been different. If you'd valued what you had instead of what you thought you deserved. I know that too. Julia sighed. Henry asked about you today, wanted to know when Daddy was coming to visit. Tell him I'll be there next month. I'm saving up for the plane ticket. You're working 3 jobs and can barely afford rent. When are you going to accept help? From who? My parents disowned me. Marilyn moved on. I destroyed every bridge I had. Then build new ones, start over. Be the man your son deserves instead of the man you've been. She paused. I saw that Marilyn's shelter offers job training programs. Maybe you should look into it. The irony wasn't lost on him. Get help from his ex-wife's charity. Learn skills at the place that used to be his parents' mansion. Accept that he'd fallen so far that his only path forward was through the institution she'd built from his family's failure. Maybe I will. After Julia hung up, Shane pulled up the Johansson House website, read about the programs they offered, legal help, career counseling, therapy, everything he needed but had been too proud to ask for. He clicked on the contact form and typed, I'm a man who made every wrong choice and destroyed everything good in my life. I need help rebuilding. Can you help men too, or just women? The response came within an hour. We help anyone who's ready to take responsibility and do the work. Come to our orientation next Monday at 6 p.m. Bring your humility and your commitment to change. Leave your excuses at the door. Shane stared at the message, then at the photos of Marilyn's wedding still glowing on his phone screen. She'd built something magnificent from the ruins of what he'd destroyed. Maybe he could do the same. He replied, I'll be there, thank you. He turned off his phone and sat in the dark apartment, feeling something he hadn't felt in a year. Hope. Not hope that Marilyn would take him back, or that Julia would forgive him, or that his parents would welcome him home. Hope that he could become someone better, someone who didn't need to make others small to feel big, someone his son could be proud of. It was a start. 2 weeks later, Marilyn and Dante returned from Bali, tanned and relaxed, and ready to conquer their next project. They went straight from the airport to the downtown lot, where the Marilyn would rise. 50 stories, Dante said, arm around her waist. The tallest building we've ever attempted. We've handled bigger challenges. She pulled out her tablet, reviewing the permits and timelines. Construction starts in 3 months, completion in 2 years, pre-sales starting next week. You really don't know how to relax, do you? I'll relax when I'm dead. Right now I have an empire to build. He kissed her temple. Have I mentioned I'm wildly attracted to your ambition? Frequently, it's one of your better qualities. They stood there in the cold January morning, looking at the empty lot that would become their masterpiece. Around them, the city hummed with life. People commuting to work, building their own dreams, living their own stories. Somewhere in that city, Shane was attending his first orientation session at Johansson House, learning how to rebuild a life from nothing. Somewhere, Julia was raising a son and building a career and discovering her own strength. Somewhere, Shane's parents were learning to live without the wealth and status they'd believed defined them. But Marilyn wasn't thinking about any of them. Her past had taught her valuable lessons, but it no longer defined her future. She was thinking about the building that would bear her name, the affordable housing units that would give families a chance at stability, the luxury penthouses that would fund the foundation she and Dante were starting, the legacy they were creating together, not just in real estate, but in proving that true partnership meant building each other up, never tearing each other down. "What are you thinking about?" Dante asked. "About how a year ago I was married to someone who made me feel insufficient. And now I'm married to someone who makes me feel invincible." "You were always invincible. I just helped you remember." "No, you saw me when I couldn't see myself. That's different." She turned to face him. "Thank you for being patient while I healed, for not trying to fix me or rush me or make me something I wasn't, for just being there while I became who I was meant to be. Being there was easy. You did all the hard work." He pulled out his phone and showed her something. "Speaking of which, look what came through this morning." It was a message from the mayor. The city was naming Marilyn as Developer of the Year for her work transforming distressed properties into community assets. The award ceremony was in 6 weeks. "They want you to give a speech about economic development and community reinvestment." "I'll have to write something." "Or you could just tell your story. How you turned the worst day of your life into the foundation of everything you've built since." She thought about it. About Christmas Eve a year ago, standing in the snow, hearing words that shattered her world. About the 3 weeks of strategic planning that followed. About the board meeting where she'd systematically dismantled her husband's company. About meeting Dante and building something better than she'd imagined possible. About turning pain into power, betrayal into empire, endings into beginnings. Maybe I will. Maybe people need to hear that story. Everyone needs to hear that story, especially people who think leaving is the end. It's not the end. It's just the beginning of something better. They walked back to their car, already discussing the next project, the next opportunity, the next challenge to conquer. This was their life now, constant motion, constant building, constant growth. Together. As they drove past Johansson House, Marilyn saw a group of women leaving the shelter, heading to job interviews or court hearings or new apartments, saw them walking with their heads high, their shoulders back, their faces set with determination. She recognized that look. It was the same one she'd worn when she'd walked out of that board meeting a year ago, the look of someone who'd decided to stop being small for someone else's comfort, the look of power reclaimed. Dante reached over and took her hand. No words needed. Just the comfortable silence of two people who understood each other completely. Marilyn never looked back at the mansion where she'd heard the words that changed everything, because she'd learned the greatest revenge wasn't destroying the man who betrayed her. It was building a life so powerful, so full of love and success, that his name never crossed her mind unless someone asked why she smiled so much. And she smiled all the time now. Not because Shane had hurt her, but because leaving him had freed her to become extraordinary. The end.